I'm Miss Apuli.
And I'm Mrs. Flyke.
I'm Miss Sapp.
And I'm Mr. Alvarez.
Where are you from?
From Mundelein. That's where I grew up, but I was born in Chicago.
What is that? What is Mundelein?
Mundelein is like a northwest suburb. So if you know where Six Flags is, I'm like 20 minutes south of that.
So I was born in Texas, and my mom's Filipino and my dad's Chinese, and we moved to Chicago early on. So most of my relatives are on the Filipino side. I don't know any relatives on the Chinese side, which is pretty sad because they were in China, versus a lot of my family from the Philippines, my mom sponsored and came to Chicago where we were. So I grew up with a lot of my Filipino cousins.
Well, I'm originally from Ukraine.
Well, I was born and raised in Chicago, and my family is from the island of Cuba, the Caribbean island, Cuba.
What is your ethnicity and nationality?
My ethnicity is Filipino, and obviously my nationality is American because I was born here in the States. Yeah.
So I am half Filipino and half Chinese, and on the Filipino side, we also have some Spaniard.
Well, I am an American citizen. I became a U.S. citizen through naturalization. That meant that I had to give up my Ukrainian citizenship. But again, I still believe that I'm Ukrainian, so my ethnicity is Ukrainian. As half of my life I spent in Ukraine.
Well, I'm Cuban American. I'm American, but my nationality would be or my ethnicity is Cuban, and my nationality would be American.
What is your experience being Filipino?
Ooh, very interesting. Being that I'm first generation, so a lot of the things that I grew up with and went through, my parents didn't really understand, but it was also very fun because I had a nice mix of both worlds where my parents brought their culture and traditions from home here, and I kind of got to decide how I want to incorporate those into my own life.
So a lot of my experience is mostly with the Filipino side, learning Filipino culture, eating Filipino food. But because my dad was Chinese, we also ate a lot of Chinese food, and we celebrate like Chinese New Year. So it was kind of a balance.
Well, I guess we speak a lot of Spanglish, which is a mix of both, and then we are lucky because we get to take part in American traditions and Cuban traditions, from food to the food we eat to the celebrations we have, the traditions, from religion to cultural. So it's kind of nice. Yeah.
Can you speak any other languages?
I know Spanish because I took it from middle school all the way through college, and I am familiar with Tagalog, although I am still learning right now. I spoke a little bit when I was younger, but I didn't continue practicing. So when you don't practice, you kind of lose it. But I can understand more than I can speak.
Okay.
No, I wish I could. I know a little bit. So we had talked, Pearl and I. Our families are kind of from possibly the same town in Philippines, in Ilocosur. And so my mom spoke Ilocano and Tagalog. And I think Aiden and I know a little Tagalog when it comes to some of the smaller pleasantry words like hello and
po, salamat.
yes. But I don't know another language completely. I just know bits and pieces of Chinese, Filipino, and then my friends who are Polish and German and Russian. I always try to learn a little bit of their language because I like languages.
Yes, I can speak Ukrainian, Russian, and I also can understand Polish.
I can speak Spanish and English, and I know like certain phrases to the different countries that I visited throughout my travels. A little bit of Arabic, a little bit of Chinese, a little bit of I don't know, just the places hi and bye and thank you and restroom and food and the important stuff, survival.
How long ago did your family move here?
My family moved here in the 80s, I think around like 1985-ish, mid-80s here. My dad came here with my grandma and a couple of his brothers. He does have 7 other siblings, and he's the youngest. So they all came over here and they settled in a suburb southwest of here and started their lives.
So let's see. My dad came to the States as a student to Juilliard School of Music in New York when he was in college. So that was when he was in his probably teens and early 20s. My mom came here as a nursing student as well in her early 20s. They had me in Texas and moved to Chicago. So we came to Chicago when I was probably only one. So I'm not going to say the year, but in the 70s. So I've been here in Illinois, in Chicago, since the early 70s.
So I moved here right after I graduated from college in 2008. And I came here on my own. I know my family really worried about me, but it all turned out well.
My mom and dad came in the early 1960s, just right after the Cuban Revolution, so they needed to get out of here because communism took over and living conditions were about to tank, and so they looking for better opportunity here, safe and in America, with hopes of going back one day, but that never happened. Cuba stayed the same, and here we are. Here I am.
Have you had any of your culture's foods?
Oh, yes.
Which one's your favorite?
I have a lot of favorites. Well, I love when my mom makes sinigang. My favorite's sour soup. I love when she makes it with fish or with beef.
I like beef.
Yeah, I like beef, but as I got older, I realized I like the fish sinigang too.
Ooh, yeah.
And you can never go wrong with lumpia, especially the little Shanghai egg rolls. Love those. And my mom makes a killer adobo.
Okay, so I have to say on the Filipino side, my favorite is lumpia. They're the small, tiny little egg rolls. Pancit, but I prefer the pancit canton bihan, so it's a mix of the yellow thicker noodle with the smaller thin noodle. That's what I grew up with. So I like that mix. I actually like the thicker noodle better. And also leche flan, my favorite. And then on the Chinese side, I would have to say my favorite is the chow fu noodles with bok choy. So it's a thick rice noodle, typically with like a meat and bok choy. I like the Filipino egg rolls better, but on the Chinese side, I do like all the rice and the thicker noodle dishes. Oh, I can't believe I didn't mention for the Chinese food is the char siu bao. So that's one of my favorite, and it's a bun with the barbecue pork
Yes,
in it.
I actually enjoy Ukrainian food pretty much daily, and I'm also very fortunate that my kids and my American husband love Ukrainian food as much as I do. So usually I make Ukrainian borscht, which is considered, a national dish. It's a beet soup, and I love pierogi and vareniki and holubtsi and nalisniki and all Ukrainian desserts. So yes.
Favorites is Cuba's food is influenced by Africa because the slaves that they brought to the island, and so I really enjoy oxtail, which I really enjoy black beans, and then all the fruits, papaya, tropical fruits, Caribbean fruits, and they all come from Africa. So, a lot of props to the African culture that has, added color to Cuban culture and American culture.
Are there any Filipino-specific holidays you celebrate?
Ooh, well, my family is pretty Catholic, so a lot of our holidays are within that Catholic tradition, and we have our own ways of doing things, even like standard holidays for like New Year's, throw money in the air, things like that. And a lot of our celebrations are very centered around the things that our older relatives like to do, like, karaoke, playing games, lots of food, those sorts of things here. I know one major one that my mom always brought us to when I was growing up was Simbang Gabi around Christmas time. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but I know in the homeland it involves like overnight vigils and prayers and such. And here in the U.S., we have a special mass on a Saturday at the church, and then afterwards we go down in the basement and eat some food and party.
Nice.
And it's a good time.
Wait, what? For like New Year's?
For Christmas.
for Christmas?
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
technically supposed to be a night mass because, Simbang Gabi at night.
Yeah.
But, since we party a little bit afterwards, they pushed it up, and we just always have it in December, the weekend before Christmas.
So growing up, I'm going to forget. So the Filipino is Singba Gabi.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
Do you celebrate Singba Gabi?
I wish.
As a kid, I did. So your age, I did. Now, not as much. Can you tell me more about that? So was it right around Christmas time?
I
Or
really don't know. 'cause
Okay,
I've
so I
never
think-
been into one.
so it's just kind of like where, it's a feast and we're eating, and it's kind of around Christmas time where there's just a lot of food. And I think you also bring food to bless. We will have to ask Miss Apuli because she is also Filipino, and I know that both of us have celebrated that as children. And then on the Chinese side, I always celebrate Chinese New Year. And so I bring that to Emerson for the last all the years that I've been here, and I always share that piece of culture. So I talk about the dragon dances and the color red and the 12 animals that kind of represent every year, and
Yeah, zodiac.
the Chinese zodiac. Yeah.
Zodiac.
And so I share that, and then my own personal kids, we try to go downtown and eat Chinese food. Oh, I can't believe I didn't mention for the Chinese food is the chasu bao. So that's one of my favorite, and it's a bun with the barbecue pork in
Well,
it.
I should say that I don't celebrate, Ukrainian tradition as much here anymore. But growing up in Ukraine, I remember that, Ukrainian Christmas is much different than it's here. So we don't give presents to kids on Christmas, but we cook 12 vegan dishes. And I remember my mom would put garlic on the corners of the table to keep spirits away. And as kids, we had to dress up as different characters and go from home to home and, sing Christmas carols. So it was always fun time.
Yeah, pretty much all of them that we celebrate here, and then some of the religious ones, the Catholicism, Catholic religions, and we've adopted some other religious holidays as well, some Jewish holidays, some African American holidays, and some Indian holidays. So it's a melting pot here in America. So you make friends, and then whenever there's a party, let's party.